Hello everybody, let me centralize a bit and respectfully ask the people outside to stop putting stuff in paper bags and or possibly close the door, which is probably something I should have done but I haven't.
Should I close the door?
Yeah. Success. Door closed. Sound, picture, give me feedback on all those important things. And let me do this. And then this. All good seemingly. All right. Well, not much has been, not much has happened since the Banter session I did a couple of days ago. I've been in the studio busy freestyling the best games of 2017 series. It's almost done. I will record one more video once this Banter session is done. In order for that video to, be of any kind of acceptable quality, this session probably will have to be slightly shorter than the previous one. I'll aim for 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and a little bit, but not really more than that, because I still have to record like a half an hour video after that. And then it's Taco Thursday, which is a very, very important thing in my life. So that should not be missed as well. I don't know why I'm looking awake. Super tag, yeah, that should not be allowed. Anyway, let's jump into the actual chess playing, since topics to discuss compared to what happened during the previous session are not numerous. And we'll try to emulate what happened in the previous session, although I'm not entirely sure I understand why it was as nice in terms of quality of chess, if I say so myself, as it ended up being. Yeah, and this is not a welcome sign, frankly. The Rubinstein in the first game of the day, a line which I know a little bit about, but generally this is extremely solid for black, and it's difficult to get much going with white here. Yeah, I did ask Fabi Galactic, it was him. He sort of apologized for continuing where he continued, but he really shouldn't have. It's not a problem. I'm not sure about this Queen E2 move, but it's sort of in the spirit of what I've been doing during the previous sessions, so I'm sticking with that. Trying for the most the sharpest, the most forcing lines possible, but I guess after Bishop D7 he's still fine. These types of structures are extremely solid for black. If he manages to castle queenside, I generally tend to really dislike these positions for white. I normally try to avoid them, but couldn't really do it this time. I'd like to play d5, but it has to be connected with something. But the tempo he gave me, like if he played bishop d7 instead of bishop d6, I could have played, if I play d5 there, he just castles long. And if he goes bishop d7 now, preparing to castle long, I have enough time to take on e6 and then go bishop f5, which is now he has to castle short. But if he does that, it opens up all kinds of potentially exciting new possibilities for me. Once again, not sure g4 is even strictly speaking necessary, but I want to get this move in as early as possible to make sure that f6, f5 never happens. Who is the best player, blitz player in the world right now is a difficult topic because there's a number of people who would be good contenders. I don't really know. In terms of, this seems like a mistake, unless my opponent really does want to give me this exchange on a8. And also, I'm not sure I want to take it. I might actually aim for more here. Because d6 he takes with the bishop, I take on a8, he takes on a8, and then I still need to find a way to break through. It's kind of boring to collect this material, but I don't really see much of a choice. I can go bishop queen d3, creating a threat of d6, but then if he notices the threat, I will win the h7 pawn with check, but it's not a lot. What I really want to do is to play h4 and then knight g5, but it's kind of vague. I don't know. Let's go for the materialistic approach after all. Yeah, and that is not great for him, obviously. I have seen Shak's game today, and actually Shak has been on fire in that tournament, Pawn Pusher. All three of his games are tours de force, and today's game was kind of strange because his opponent did something extremely weird in the opening, getting a very poor position by move 10, and then fought bravely for a while, but never really completely recovered. But the previous couple of games were, you know, straight openings, so to speak, where he would just overpower his opponents seemingly through, you know, sheer will more than anything else. I don't know what I really am not the world's greatest specialist on C3 systems. So, not entirely sure what I'm doing here. I think this is what you're supposed to do, followed by d6, knight d7, bishop b7, and hoping you don't get mated on the king side in the meantime, but not 100% certain. Yeah, Karyakin is actually making more and more of a name for himself as a blitz player. He he also, I believe, surprised a great number a great number of people in the blitz matches going on that other website that will remain unnamed. Haha. Bishop e4 is not really something you should be playing in these positions because generally, I think in this line, white's play is connected with trying to give mate as fast as possible on the king side and not really trying to defend his pawns. Because structurally, black is just doing very, very well. My issue with this position is that if I play bishop e7 on this move instead of queen c6, he goes queen g4 just as he has done here. And it's difficult for me to complete development on the king side. Kind of similar to what's happening here. If only I could play bishop e7 and castles sort of in peace, I would be doing extremely well. Don't really like what I'm doing here at all. Even knight takes e5 is actually a very decent possibility here. d5 I was planning to go queen c4. I can also go queen c4 here, but it doesn't really achieve very much. I would have gone to g5 probably, not g3, because I don't think allowing me to get this pawn all the way up to h3 is a good idea for him. And with a pawn on h4, it's very likely that I will be playing at least a serious part of this game with the king still on e8, because I don't really... Unless he goes queen h3 here. Okay, this is a move I would never have considered in his spot. Now his position is very, very ruined. He does have some play on the other side of the board, but it shouldn't be enough. This is really, really horrible. I don't think you ever do this with white. I can even castle now. So yeah, on the subject of best players in the world, in terms of results, Jan Nepomniachtchi has tremendous results in Blitz in general. I always rated Alexander Grishuk as one of the best players in the world in the format, and I think his record supports that. And there are others. Yeah, and this rook endgame should be, I mean, with normal technique, not my technique, but with normal technique, this has to be very easily winning, generally. I'm not sure about this move. In fact, I actually dislike it quite hard by now, but because if he goes rook b1 now, I might actually end up having technical problems. Yeah, this is quite smart as well, actually. I will have to, and I will end up playing some endgame I didn't really want to play, where I pick up the e-pawn, and I have 3 against 2. The time advantage makes this a reasonably easy conversion, I guess, and also it's probably closer to a win than to a draw with the weak pawns that he has. And yeah, this is the kind of, well, yeah, that was a mistake. That should not have been done. That's the kind of an endgame I wanted to get against Hikaru Nakamura in the Grand Prix in Palma de Mallorca, but didn't because I mixed it up. It's very, very difficult to defend from the white side, because black has, well, I mean, the stronger side has obvious plans to make progress here. So yeah, but this position should never have deteriorated into 2 against 3. Just playing, I guess, b5 before and making sure it's protected on b4, and then, I don't know, going g5, rook f4, securing my rook position, and then activating the king would have won a lot easier. Okay, this is alarming. Let me do something about it which might help. Then again, tell me how bad it is, people, because I have a way to potentially improve the quality of the stream, but it will interrupt something else which is sort of important, and I wouldn't really want to interrupt it, if at all possible. Good. If it's okay now, we'll keep running this way, because in about 10 minutes, that other process which I could shut down, sort of destroying an hour of work, will finish anyway. We've had some connectivity issues in the office throughout the day today, so my apologies for potential hiccups we could have with the stream. I mean, I'm extremely surprised every time something like this happens in a Central European country, because, you know, one thing I've grown extremely accustomed to is not having any internet issues, more or less anywhere in Germany. But it still does occasionally happen. I don't know why I opted for that. This line is kind of giving me nightmares from both colors. I think you're supposed to take, but let's try this. Let's see what my opponent knows about this line. I think the inclusion of knight d2 and bishop b7 makes it a lot better for, although I'm not sure about queen f3. Queen f3 may have been a mistake. This is very similar to what Inarkiev got with white against Ding Liren, but generally I thought the inclusion of knight d2 bishop b7 improved it for white, but now I'm not so sure. This is not really the way to play this position properly, but I did not really want to spend the next minute and a half calculating ways to play queen g3, which is what I would like to do, so I'm just making sure I have the option of playing bishop d3 next move and then knight d3, which is not a lot, or even maybe knight c4. Of course the bishop is better off not wasting two tempi here, but black has all kinds of tactics connected with knight takes e4 in these positions, and I wanted to make sure I rule them out completely. He probably wants to go knight g4 here, and it's more annoying than I thought originally. I have to choose between rook e1 and rook f1 and rook e2. I don't know which is better. Probably neither, to be honest, but I think this might be slightly more comfortable for me. The big question is whether he can take on f2 here. I kind of hope he can't, but I'm not entirely sure. I think I can deal with it. If the queen absolutely has to go back, I will survive this early onslaught. And then I should be doing okay. I can play... it's actually still kind of awkward. Definitely more awkward than I thought. I can go queen e2, but then he can take on e4. And I have to do some... kind of weird things to make sure I stabilize. And black is very much fine, obviously. Any kinds of captures on f2 seem to run into bishop e3. At least that's my assumption, that if he takes on f2, either with the rook and the knight, or the knight immediately, I can play bishop e3 and pick that knight up. So I think the knight has to go back, and then I go bishop e3. And I definitely have enough compensation for the pawn, but whether I have more or not is very unclear to me. Yeah. This is kind of the issue, because I lack a tempo to play what I wanted to play here. Queen d6, yeah. It's, yeah, that move I definitely missed. It doesn't change the evaluation a great deal, but it makes my next move slightly awkward. Yeah, and people screaming time are absolutely correct. I should be playing faster. He can just go back, because yeah, I probably should, we can discuss it later on, is what I want to say about this. Because this is too complicated of a position to play and speak. I'm now doing very, very well, but whether I will win it or not is unclear, obviously, because it's not an easy conversion for me, but objectively I am kind of winning here. Yeah, this wasn't a blunder. This actually queens the pawn. So yeah, that was an interesting game, and I think somewhere around here, it shouldn't be very good for me. And I was wondering, somewhere around here I stopped talking, but my thought process was, if he goes back, I take, I go bishop b6. And I thought knight d7 was strong, but as a matter of fact, I collect his entire queen side. So that wasn't very good. And once we get to this position, I start liking my position a great deal more because the pawn on a5 is weak. And I guess he was planning to go queen b4. I didn't even notice I can take on c7, which possibly was also quite strong. But that endgame I got after a5, bishop b3 and bishop c5 is quite good for me, because if he goes knight d5, he will not be on time to stop my a7 pawn without losing the b4 pawn. Let's say if he goes bishop a4 here, I can go bishop c4, bishop c6 and pick it up anyway. And any of those positions with a pawn on a7 and two bishops against a bishop and knight, even though I am currently a pawn down here, are clearly better for white, because the bishops are so strong and the outside passer is so strong. Okay, so that was a decent game, I thought. d4 c6. I have no idea what that is, but I will reply by something which makes no sense as well, and we'll go from there. Yeah, people demanding perfect score are very likely to be disappointed. Perfect scores are a very rare beast during these streams. And that's not a premium. How do I do this to myself all the time? I noticed the rating and I thought, okay, this is a higher rated player. He must be a premium member. But that actually doesn't work like that. So I'll pay more attention in the future. My apologies, people. Yeah, that doesn't exactly count. We can't really rule that as my perfect score gone. That would be a bit too harsh. That's just me being me, and not being able to, read what's in front of me on the screen. This line has been known for ages, and I believe is supposed to be very decent for white, but not entirely sure about any of it. Yeah, I think this is sort of theory. It looks like he blundered the queen, but he hasn't actually. I think he's supposed to go d6 here, but if he goes queen e7, I'm not entirely sure what's wrong with that move, which is a bit annoying. Because at least I know how I'm supposed to reply to d6, but queen e7 is, yeah, queen e7 is an issue for me here. Yeah, I had to resign, yes, the last time. This time at least I didn't have to resign because the draw was accepted by my opponent gracefully. Although I still don't quite understand why people put their name up if they're not premium, trying to, trick me into an attack of old age, I guess. I don't really want to take, because then his position is, I think, very, very nice. I would like to play for some kind of positional compensation. I don't want to win this pawn too early. But I have a feeling I will have to spend some time here preparing for it. Like, I have to stop rook c8, b5 first. All of this looks extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? Artificial. I don't really believe this is good. He can go bishop c6 here, for instance, and stop my plans of playing bishop e2 and g4. I should have gone knight e4 straight away. I'm kind of trying to bait him into playing h5. Yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing here. That last bit was completely disgusting because, of course, you have to go knight e4 the first moment this opportunity is presented to you. As kind of self-punishment, I will go for something extremely speculative here. If he goes king e7 here, I want to play g4. I have no idea if it works or not, but it looks interesting and attractive. Because if he takes on h1, I take on f5, and then the bishop is hanging, and also the pawn on d6 is hanging. And it's not just one pawn, because his entire position will collapse if he allows that. The question here is whether I need to take on f5 first. I don't think I need to. I think I would rather try to preserve this bishop. If he plays h5 here, I will take, but this gives me a very important tempo to do something in the center. I don't know what's best here. Let's go for this. He should go just king f6. Yeah, he is playing this rather well after allowing this tactic. I think I need to take control over the e-file here, which is why I'm foregoing taking on d6 for the time being in order to bring my king closer to where the real action will be. This position is still very, very unclear. I probably should have stopped the king from coming to g4, but I didn't, and now I need to pay attention to not losing this bishop on c7. He should still go king g4 at the earliest opportunity, I think. I don't like f3. I think f3 is helping me probably more than it is helping him. I'm creating some operational space for my rook on the king side here. Yeah, and this now, especially now that he's allowed, I will lose on time probably, but I am now completely winning objectively. Yeah, okay, now after this I will not after this I'm no longer winning, yeah. Okay, there was a draw for somewhere in there, which I was not in time to accept, which is regrettable, and I'm grateful to my opponent for offering the draw there. Although, you know, by the same token, if you want to draw for a draw with an extra exchange, you could conceivably resign here. It seems a bit inconsistent, but can't complain. I think it was a reasonably interesting game, but yeah, time management in 3-minute games against strong opponents can definitely be improved upon today. Yeah, now the perfect score definitely is gone. But yeah, my opponent played really well in the early phase, and then when we got down to blitzing, I first outplayed him and then sort of deservedly lost on time because throughout the game he was faster than me. I don't like this knight g2 move, but I mean it's already on the board, so there's not much to discuss. I think it's once again way too artificial to be doing what I'm doing here. Knight d7 had to be played here, I believe. No, actually that would have lost this bishop, so that's completely wrong. And he now managed to position his pieces in such a way that it will be extremely difficult for him to challenge my light pieces, and I should be kind of aiming to break through and do a lot of damage on the king side. I would like to stop bishop f5 though. And queen c7. Do I have to play e6 here is the question. I'll start with bishop d3 and I'll play e6 next move if he plays queen c7. I think it's a bit of an improvement. The plan here obviously is to somehow, yet he should not have done that, because my one issue was how to include the bishop on c1 in the game. And now I have all this freedom to develop it anywhere. It can go to g5 in all these positions, and yeah, you never ever lengthen this bishop diagonal for me if you're black in this position. It's extremely counterproductive. Yeah, Akash is obviously correct. My APM is not, you know, the strongest part of my blitz play. Yeah, I forgot one thing that happened since the last Banter Blitz. We went to see the Last Jedi. And Jan slept through parts of it, which I think is justifiable, frankly. I didn't sleep through any of it, but I still felt like, whilst being better than the previous ones, it's still not a movie I will be rewatching. This is very near to what Hare Krishna played against me in the last round of the Palma de Mallorca Grand Prix. And this plan with trying to play f5 as early as possible is, I believe, the correct one for black. But I quite like knight h4. I think knight h4 is the correct approach in reply. And now he should go d4. Because once again, if he allows f5 without really stopping it in any way, I think I will be extremely happy with my position. If he played d4 in a previous move, after f5 he could take on e5 and at least break up my pawn chain, and then it would have been a lot easier for him to handle. Also, if you imagine in this position the d-pawn's gone, bishop a3 becomes a theme he can try and exploit. White probably isn't worse yet if he plays this accurately. I'll do this, but it's not necessary, but there's absolutely no reason for me to worry about this exchange. If he takes it, he will be, I think, immediately worse. I can also do this for one more move, I think. But then he goes f4. Maybe that was a mistake, actually. Not because I hung a rook, but because I should have prepared for castles followed by f4 more accurately. If you give me a tempo here, if I can play queen d7 followed by knight f6 or bishop h3, I will be doing quite well. The question is, yeah, this actually makes sense. h3 followed by g4. It makes sense in these structures to lengthen the diagonals for his bishops, and then his bishops have a lot more freedom. I'll actually go to the extreme, extreme step of stopping it altogether, or at least trying to stop it altogether. I think it's important not to allow him to play g4 here. But h5 obviously is an ugly move to make. I ideally would like to not have to do this, but I think it was justified. Yeah, I'm hearing various things on the subject of lag. After this game I will check briefly, but I think we are almost done with the process in the other window, which potentially maybe could be slowing down the office internet. So I expect the quality to improve in about 3 minutes. I don't want to jump between windows here to check, so you'll have to bear with me. I still need to find some kind of a plan here. I quite like my position, but it's not that easy to make progress. I'm not sure if I need to play c5 or not. It's, one way of changing the structure which is available to me. Yeah, bishop g5 is a good reply to it. Maybe I should have gone e4. I'm drifting a bit here. Not really doing very much and allowing my opponent to improve his position gradually. If he goes bishop e3, I'm not going to repeat, but I'm not sure what my constructive ideas are. I'll start by playing king h8 because I think it's always useful to have it on h8 in these types of positions. It makes my maneuvering easier. And yeah, we managed to tempt him into some kind of a structure change himself. It might not be a bad structure change for him, but at least now we have something to react to. Yeah, I think maybe d4 was slightly over-optimistic. I can now start collecting stuff, ideally. Okay, let me just briefly check what's going on there. Yeah, it's done, so I expect the internet to become a bit faster right now because that upload that was going on in the background is now finished. This is not the most ambitious of all the setups known to man, if we're entirely honest with ourselves here. But it's playable. No, I wasn't downloading anything. It's an office connection. All of my bad habits are kind of discouraged here quite strongly. The one plan I kinda like in these positions is to try for queen c2 followed by d3 and e4, but black generally has ways of dealing with it if he is careful. I think if black wants to play b6 and bishop b7, he probably should start with b6 because it gives him more freedom on the following. I almost said turns there instead of moves. I watched too much Twitch. Yeah, let's go. Sorry, let's go d4 here. Yeah, I wonder what is being replaced by those symbols in the chat, because it would appear to me that old ZG is trying to say something nice about Banter Blitz, and yet our ever watchful censors seem to really dislike what he's saying. I really wonder what that word is that he's trying to use. That's not a bad move at all, actually. I kind of discounted the idea that he might move this knight again in this game, but knight of 8 with the idea of bishop f5, which is kind of difficult to stop, is not a bad move at all. And this is an incredibly weird move I don't really like making, but it's important for me to go 92 and then follow it up by e4 if at all possible. And stopping bishop f5 is a very, very large part of how I will be able to do that. People asking for gambits. I will, I keep on forgetting. We'll play some lower rated people after this game, and I will try playing gambits every game. I think we managed to confuse the lawyer quite significantly by going knight h4, which is good. We like confusing lawyers. Yeah, I don't like what my opponent is doing in the last few moves. Once I didn't allow bishop f5, his game, I think, went very sharply downhill. I can even do this to completely strangle him off, any space. I think g5, knight g6 is not a bad idea at all, but it shouldn't be fast enough if I'm careful. One thing that would be a mistake here is to go rook e1, because then g4 is very annoying, so I'll start by h3. I have to pay attention that I don't allow him to play f6 under good circumstances, but that should be extremely difficult for him to achieve, because these, for instance, are not good circumstances, because I assume immediate control over the e5 square. He needed to try and do that when his knight was still on g6, but that was very, very difficult to achieve. If he goes knight e4 here, I might even take. My position is so dominant that I don't really mind sacrificing some light material to get to his king faster. Yeah, and here white is just completely dominant. Black will never have any squares. If I pay any attention at all, black will never in this game will get any squares at all, and I can just double up and then pile on and, I don't know, sacrifice something on g5 probably is the easiest way of winning this game. Once I double up on the e-file. Even that is not, strictly speaking, required, but it makes my life easier to have all my pieces in play. And I'm not even going to give him the luxury of opening the a-file. Normally you play before a5, a3 in this structure, but in this position that's not even required. Yeah, and feels like I already should be winning somehow, but I don't see how. So I'll go with the positional solution. Actually, I kind of messed it up. If he takes on g7 now, I mean, knight d4 probably wins, but apart from that, yeah, and for a second there, I was worried about rook takes f3, but now I assume total control, actually. Because I can give the check on h7 and then just go rook e3, and he runs out of space for his stuff. And space for his stuff is a very technical term you only learn when you become a very strong chess player. I could have waited with this capture for a move. Actually, king g2, he goes knight g6, so I'll make a move with a similar idea, but the one that doesn't allow the fork. Yeah, more or less any move wins here, obviously. I don't need to do anything. Okay, some lower rated games and some gambits as promised, or at least I will attempt to. My pleasure, Mr. Lawyer. So what qualifies as the closest to a gambit against 1d4? I really don't know. People, by this point in the tour, it feels like people are sledging me by asking me cricket questions. I don't know what I've done to deserve it. Yeah, this has been very, very difficult to watch, this Ashes tour. For an England supporter, at least. Yeah, d4, e5 actually crossed my mind. In particular, sorry, because this is a favorite opening of a mutual friend of mine. I mean, mine and Jan's. And Shahunsky, if you're watching, greetings. I probably won't see you on this visit, but you know you're always in my heart. But yeah, I couldn't bring myself to do it. It was just too much. Any sport is difficult to watch for an England supporter. That is somewhat true, I suppose, in the current climate. Why don't I write a best game book? I mean, my answer would be the same regardless of which book you named in that question. Paul Petrovich. It's mainly to do with me not wanting to write a book, because I don't want to write a bad book, and writing a good book, from what I've heard from people who actually wrote good books, is quite a lot of work. And I am, barely keeping up with life as it is. This was not a Gambit game. I apologize for this. I am now going to be a piece up, and I will hopefully win this position rather easily, but this was not an exciting game I was kind of hoping to produce. But it's difficult against people who play, variations on the London theme. London does not lend itself very easily to producing games of tactical brilliance. I actually managed to misplay this quite badly. I should have just gone king g6 after queen b3 check. I don't know why I did this. White actually gets some compensation now, which really should never have been anywhere near the case. It's very upsetting to me that I allowed all this. I had an extra piece for one pawn and no real play for my opponent, and it now deteriorated to this where, I mean, I'm still winning, but it's a lot closer now than it had any right to be at any point. Yeah, this has not been a flawless conversion. Not that people expect flawless conversions from me, to be honest, but this wasn't one. I'll still win, but yeah, it's a bit embarrassing just how close I made this game eventually. Yeah, and once again I managed to... no, hang on, I was about to blunder something which really should not be blundered in this position. Yeah, once the bishop is gone, obviously it's no longer very difficult to convert from here. Okay, I'll try harder to play something properly sharp in the next one. Okay. Yeah, this is not a gambit, but the Dutch is... It's like an honorable... honorary gambit. Should have honorary gambit status. The Dutch is worse than most gambits. That's not true. The Dutch is a very playable opening. People hating on the Dutch are just not doing it right. Look at my position. No, I don't want to put the pawn back to f7, jawbreaker. That's completely incorrect. Actually, I was too hasty with e3. I could have waited for one more move. If he takes on e3 now, the position actually becomes a bit unclear. That was a mistake. Although, not because of this move. This move allows me to take on g3, which is something I generally should not have been allowed to do. This is a nice move to make, right? At least I enjoyed it. No, AlphaZero probably played very few Dutches, at least once it kind of established what it considers good openings and what it considers bad openings. How's the stream quality? Kind of feels like I should be breaking through here, but I don't see it. This is fairly close though. Let's open up some more files. I don't think this is necessarily required, but it's nice to give your pieces some air. I'm not sure what my threat is, which is kind of annoying me, but it's extremely difficult for him to make moves. Yeah, that's a good choice. I can ask him to make one more and see what he does. And then probably knight c2, knight d4. But yeah, this loses every single light piece on the board. I think I'm favored to win from here. Mate without giving actual checks. Only the final mate is a check. I don't know why I've done it this way, but yeah, that's what we'll go with. Okay, with white I'm sort of more in control of my destiny here. So we can do some stuff. Just don't play b6. The way to completely destroy people playing 2b4 is to play b6 in this position. Not that it's such a great move, but it just ruins the mood so convincingly that I think it's the nastiest thing you can do to a person playing this gambit. I think it goes without saying that what I'm doing here is not really great for white. But yeah, there is some compensation. Do I believe in aliens? Why do people keep on asking me that? I will give the same reply that I gave the journalist who asked me that in a serious interview. That I don't think belief has anything to do with it. There could be aliens out there, but I haven't met one, and I don't believe people who say they have met one. Because they produced not a shred of evidence. So, I don't know. That's sort of my answer as far as that goes. If at some point there is conclusive evidence of the existence of aliens, it will not shake the foundations of what I think about the world. But there hasn't been any so far as I know. Let's ruffle some feathers on the king side here. Yeah, I used the word believe there again, which was obviously a mistake. I realized it just as I said it, but and voila, we're suddenly completely winning. That didn't take very long. The knight didn't really belong on g6, and h4 should have been replied to with something else. Even maybe knight e7 back was better than allowing this. Well, depends on how you define playable, could be better. Joyso is an alien. Yeah, Joyso is, in many respects, a new and improved species. But it cannot be proven on a biological level, I believe. It's important here not to blunder bishop takes f2, but by playing g3... Oh god, yeah. Goodness gracious, bishop g5 was winning material, but I thought g3 was winning material. It's all this talk about aliens, driving me slightly insane. I'm still doing well, but yeah, allowing bishop f6 there is like criminal negligence. This knight has ideas above its station, although I kind of blundered queen a5 here. If he goes queen a5 here, I will be very sad, because my dreams of landing it on b5 will be kind of dead in the water, although I can go bishop b2 maybe. This is once again very fine for white. Depends on, I mean, it's not clear how fine, but after bishop f8, I can go bishop a3 if I want to. I can also go bishop g5, and then something like queen h3, h8 becomes very much part of my agenda. Yeah, Jan has very, very set ideas about dolphins, thrifty. Yeah, I don't know who Yevgeny Stalev is. I don't think he looks like an alien, but some of the things he used to do in his prime were... I've seen him live more than once, and yeah. That guy does things which should not be, you know, by rights possible to do. Don't really want to trade. I don't know why I played bishop f4. I mean, if I trade, I'll win some endgame later on, but I don't really want to play an endgame. Becoming progressively annoyed with how I'm treating this game. Bishop takes c3 is optimistic. He should have just gone queen g7, but I mean, objectively, it's not going to change the evaluation of the position very much. But here his position just falls apart. Bishop b5 check was much stronger, obviously. I don't know why I played this move. Don't really needed to. Didn't really need to, but it wins nonetheless. Okay, one more slightly lower rated game and we'll go back to the highest challenges I can find in the list. Gambits. Scandinavian is not a gambit. Scandinavian is, you know, very, very far from being a gambit, actually. Oh, come on. What is this? People completely raining on our parade here. Yeah, this probably should not have been allowed, but it's not the biggest problem in the world. It's like a Yanish. There are lines like this in the Yanish, but white normally has a bishop on c4, not on e2, which should be in my favor. Do I need to fight against d4 here? Is the big question. Because I would like not to lengthen his diagonal for the e2 bishop. If I take on e4, his position becomes a lot nicer to look at. But I'm kind of worried about d3, d4 here. so I'll do it anyway. He can also play b4 and go after my bishop. I haven't really done my position justice at all here. Like b4, bishop b6, a4 is quite annoying here. Leaves me with very, very uncomfortable options. Yeah, actually in this position I should have taken on d5, but okay. And this is a huge mistake from my opponent, because he has now left this bishop alive on b6. And this bishop will now, in all likelihood, just win me the game, because it cannot be opposed, and I will open the f-file next move. He should have taken on b6 at some point when he had the opportunity. It's an unbelievable oversight from him not to do that at the earliest possible moment. I have a feeling rook takes f2 works, but I'm not sure if I need to confirm it by playing it. Yeah, I don't think it's required. I was slightly overexcited about how good my position actually is here, I think. It's still very good, but it's nowhere near as good as I originally thought, because he is able to stabilize before I put a lot of pressure on the f2 pawn here. I believe my peak rating is 2769. I don't actually remember it ever being so high. I thought it was 2763, but multiple sources say it's 69. I'm 12, by the way. I'll go after the a4 pawn here. Actually, rook f3 was winning on the spot. Yeah, what am I doing? Rook f3 was winning. It actually wasn't, but I should have played it nonetheless. How do we make progress from here? Yeah, rook f3 he can take on h7 twice, but basically the question why not rook f3 is answered by a very simple statement. I didn't see it in time. It's kind of annoying. This is a regrettable choice, but I'm wondering if I need to actually simplify by playing queen g4 if he goes bishop b3. Okay, I'll definitely play queen g4 here. I'm not going to give him those squares ever again. Yeah, e4 and rook takes f2 may have been very strong as well. That's a good point, IR Baboon. That's a much better point, actually. And now we've broken through because he managed to misplace his pieces very, very horribly here. And we're just winning the f2 pawn here. So it sort of ended up the way I envisaged it will end up, but along the way I think I misplayed it quite badly. I think I played Dan and then numbers yesterday, so I'll look for newer names. Yeah, I am playing in Vike, amigo. I'll stick with the sharper openings though. What did we think about bishop f4? Remember we thought it was a decent move actually. It's a very rare move, but it's not at all bad. Even something like h4, h5 could be quite annoying here. I'm not sure I should have played g6 even. But yeah, the feeling is when people play bishop f4, they don't do it with the idea of playing h4, h5 later. So I should feel quite safe on that point. I will try to tempt my opponent into doing something indiscreet. But I don't think he will. No habla español. Don't like. If I wanted to be really adventurous, I could go for a queenside castling here, but I think it's a bit too much. I don't know what this bishop d7 move is all about, to be honest. I should have either played e5 and then bishop b6, or I should have just castled. Either one of those two was okay. Doing neither seems to be wasteful. Yeah, I don't know. The point of my previous play was to play e4 in this position. I'm still not sure if it's any good, but that's sort of the only way to justify what I've been doing. If he goes knight g5 here, the belief is, and the reason I'm doing this, is that I can play h6, and regardless of what he puts on f7, he should lose some material. But yeah, I don't really know if it's true. He can also just go knight d4 here and have a perfectly reasonable position. I'll go for this because, well, it's the most fun. Basically, is the short answer. If he takes on c7, taking on d4 probably just outright loses to knight c4. But my plan is to start by playing rook c8 here, and the bishop doesn't. Yeah, I was about to say doesn't really have good squares, but he has good squares. What am I doing with my life? The answer is nothing good. What am I continuing to do with my life? It's truly bizarre what I'm doing here. I'm trying to stop him from playing knight c4, and this strange bishop dance is basically me making sure that the knight doesn't land on c4. And it will now land on c4 anyway, which is kind of annoying. But I think I'm okay. It looks scary, but the queen can't really land on any good squares here. And I will be in time to consolidate, hopefully. And once I do consolidate, I have an extra pawn to fall back on. Takes queen a1 is slightly annoying because I have to waste the tempo on repositioning my pieces again. I think it's his best move here. Because if I go knight f6, rook c1 is actually very, very awkward. So I thought I should probably go queen d4 and only play knight f6 later. I'm also probably threatening e3 here. I missed rook d1 completely, but because all of my pieces are on the dark squares, it's not that threatening. Although, you know, if I continue missing simple stuff, I will eventually land in trouble. Yeah, this has been a very poorly played game, frankly, by me, not by my opponent. My opponent has not done anything particularly wrong. I need to start creating some kind of threats because otherwise I will get rolled over on the queen side. Yeah, that was a long sequence of completely unforced errors there by me. f4, queen d4 check is kind of bad for me, so I'll go with knight f6, but he can just go a5 here, followed by a6. I'm in a lot of trouble here, because it's extremely difficult for me to create any kind of counterplay at all. The squares I have for my pieces right now are basically the squares I will have to work with for the rest of the game. Yeah, I don't like this. I think this is a mistake from him. He should have played a5 when he still had the chance. And now I'm actually probably just completely winning. He played parts of that game extremely well by my opponent, but then he just, I think, completely lost track. I can actually take here and go knight d7. And apparently I was on -1 against F Schwarz previously. So that allows me to level the score, which is always welcome. Let me check what's going on in the chat. Are there any GMs you traditionally struggle to beat? Yeah, I have very poor scores against, in particular, Vishy Anand and Vladimir Kramnik. Those are the two I historically have very poor scores against. Although my score against Kramnik has improved from a certain moment on. My first ever classical victory against him, I believe, was in 2004, after 15 years of playing him more or less non-stop. And I still have 0 classical wins against Vishy. What am I supposed to do here? Trying to remember my King's Gambit theory, which is a difficult task. I remember this wasn't the main line somehow, but I, for the life of me, can't figure out why. Looks very logical. If I go g3, he goes g4, and it's very awkward for me to reply. Or maybe not. Let's see what happens. Because if he goes g4 here, I can go knight h4, and his pawns are also hanging. Yeah, h4 instead of knight c3 is obviously a possibility, but you have to be prepared to play all those like really insane gambits, which I have never really studied. This looks weird, but it's these positions are not as bad as they might look from the first glance. Go queen d2, I castle long, and it's kind of hard for him to completely consolidate. And then you start digging stuff up by playing h3 at an opportune moment. These are trickier positions than they appear, because, you know, at first glance, black just has an extra pawn on f3, which is protected by the pawn on g4. And it feels like I should be kind of resigning soon, but it's not exactly like that. Yeah, there are some very good close friendships between people at the highest level, because you play against the same people over and over again. You meet them, you know, they become sort of like your extended family. And obviously, you know, we all understand that among your family members, you don't necessarily like every single one, but you generally will find people among your family who you like. So Same with your co-competitors. Not so easy to make moves for white either, though. Like h3, h5, how do I proceed from there? Let's give him one. Actually, I think including h3, h5 is never a mistake. But after he eventually plays h5 here, I want to give him one more move. And see what he decides to do. Because for him also, this is quite obviously the best setup in terms of where the pieces go that he can aim for in this position. And it's not entirely clear what his next moves are either. This allows me to do a number of things. Knight f5 is not stupid. But also, I think taking and going knight d5 is not stupid at all. Because now I have this really, really large threat of bishop g5. Which is surprisingly difficult to handle. I think Hoifan is a brilliant player and a wonderful ambassador for the game, but as for the question whether she will cross the 27 barrier or not, it's difficult to judge. Competition is fierce, and yeah, I kind of forgot this move existed. It's a very good choice. Competition is fierce, and it's not an easy thing for anyone to cross that barrier, so I'm wondering if I should have played bishop h6 first. This is still a very difficult position to play. And I like how my opponent is approaching it. I'm not sure I like how I'm approaching it, to be honest. It's extremely difficult, extremely easy to go very, very wrong here. Yeah, the most obvious move here is queen d7, after which I was, yeah, I mean, my plan was to play knight takes c7, but it's just such a pedestrian way to play. I'm ashamed I even thought of it. And this is just a blunder of the d4 pawn. What am I doing? Yeah, this is not going well. I mean, I'm grateful for my opponent for not picking up this pawn when he had the opportunity, but my previous couple of moves was extremely vague, and he should be doing very, very well now. Somewhere around knight d5 short castles, I should have been doing quite well, I feel, but since then my play has been very far from good. Bishop f5 even. Really like how my opponent is playing this phase, unless g4 works, which it might. And we could be sort of in this game again. Knight takes c7, nothing was necessarily wrong with knight takes c7, the Mad King, but it just wasn't spectacular. I'll show you after the game what eventually convinced me it wasn't a good move. This is too difficult of a position to speak constantly, to be honest. I've misplayed it quite badly already, and I didn't really want to continue playing it horribly. I'm doing quite well now, though. Obviously. If I take on c7 here, hang on. There we are. If I take on c7, the point, of course, is if he takes, I want to take on g4, and if he takes again, then he does get mated. But as we all know, chess is not checkers, and the first problem is that he can go rook a8, and after knight d5, he has like any number of moves he can make, like knight e7, trades a lot of pieces, which is something I don't want to allow. But my apologies, what really annoyed me was that he can take on c7, and after rook takes g4, he can go knight e5. And now I more or less have to take. He takes on c4, and without this light squared bishop, my attack will never amount to anything. And also the rook is now hanging because the bishop is gone, and the rook has to go somewhere, and he will take on e5 and be completely winning by force, which I think is maybe more relevant. But even if that wasn't true, losing this light squared bishop was something I didn't really want to contemplate. But yeah, somewhere here it felt to me like maybe I have something, but I spectacularly failed to show what that something is. And in fact, maybe it's really nothing. Maybe the king is very safe on h7 and my entire plan of doing this was wrong. Maybe I should have gone knight f5 actually. Because if he takes and goes knight e7, I thought something like takes on h8 and bishop g5 might not be completely stupid. Then again, it might not work at all, who knows. Okay, this I believe is the highest blitz rating I've ever seen in the list of challenges. I have no idea who this guy is, but with this rating and also with the name containing the word gambit, it was impossible to resist. Okay. This is, I think, at this point, maybe the main line of the h3-6 subline. If only I could remember what I'm supposed to do here. Would be extremely useful. I'm not sure this is any good. But it's a possible way of approaching this position. Let's put it like that. The whole line is obviously very, very strategically risky for both sides, not just for black. It gets extremely double-edged and extremely sharp. Should play bingo for Svidlerisms. Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to try. I've seen this done on various Twitch channels. Castles is not necessarily ballsy. This is what white generally does in this line. It's just that allowing this specific sequence of takes, knight e6 followed by before, knight b4, you have to be extremely sure you're doing the right thing here with white, because obviously if this backfires, it will backfire quite spectacularly. It will be extremely good for black. Already here, I feel like if he doesn't go queen d4, queen b6, he might never have time. I'm also threatening bishop takes c4, winning a lot of material. I think queen d4 is absolutely forced, yeah, and my opponent finds it. But yeah, even here I should be doing very well, but the question is how. I'll start with this move because I don't want to give him the easy option of going queen b6 here. If he goes queen b6 now, I can take and take on e4, winning an important central pawn. h5, h6 is, you know, one typical way white tries to do something, but in this particular position it feels like it should be way too slow. Yeah, now the question is I need to find a way to exert even more pressure. It's not immediately obvious to me how to do that. I'll go with this. I'm not sure what this does, but it just feels right. In most Sicilians, going d6, d5 is, you know, what they say about the castling, that, you know, castles may be timed poorly, but it's never a bad move. And the same applies to d5 breaks in the Sicilian. It's extremely rare that it will be a really, really bad choice to do this. It could easily not be the best choice in the position, though. I quite like bishop c4, bishop b3. I did not notice that option. I maybe should have played around it. Bishop f4. That feels ambitious. That feels very ambitious somehow. But maybe it's quite good, actually. Yeah, maybe it is very decent. I don't know why I was so surprised when it appeared on the board. Yeah, I get the feeling I misplayed this position quite badly. This is nowhere near fast enough for me. I still have some play, but yeah, I kind of dislike what I've done to my position here. Quite badly. I will still get some counterplay, but yeah, that wasn't great. Queen h2, nicely done. Yeah, it's obvious that this is someone who actually knows how to play chess quite well. Unsurprisingly, with a more than 3,000 point rating. The game is not completely over yet, but I've not done my position justice at all, obviously. This is not great. Yeah, rook f1 probably crashes through here, although maybe I can survive this. If I don't lose in the next two moves, I might actually be in with a shout here. Bishop takes e6 is a concern. Queen c3, he goes queen d4. I don't really want to allow that, but I don't think I have much of a choice. Yeah, what eventually will be my undoing here is my back rank issues. And now rook b6 probably just wins, followed by rook takes e6, I guess. Although I'm less convinced about that than I was originally. And also, somewhat surprisingly, I'm ahead on time, which is not what normally happens when I play against properly good blitz players. Whoops, I wanted to take on h4. That would have been a bit of a blunder. We don't really want to be doing that. I'm misplaying this quite badly, but my position is still safe enough, and I will, I think, eventually win on time. Okay. How did I get ahead on time in this game? It's a 5-minute game which was extremely complicated, and also I was worse. Yeah, that's very, very unusual for me to actually be this much ahead on time against somebody who is quite obviously very strong and who had the better position, at least at some point in the game. We'll go for another half an hour or so. I don't think I can manage much more than that, and I also have to record one more video which will require some brain power. Yeah, that was definitely not Hikaru. Hikaru would have destroyed me from that position. And Hikaru is like twice as fast as I am these days. I should have played a6 actually on the previous move, but it doesn't really matter much. e5 on move 3 there is... It falls under the category of do not do that type move. The video series will be 5 moderately sized videos, Jawbreaker. What came of your kids' plan of becoming metal detectorists? Not detectors, detectorists, it's very important. They've kind of given up on that. Not entirely, but they've kind of given up on that, developed new alarming interests. Yeah, I've been busy recording something on this visit, Panther Chess. I'm kind of autopiloting here. I've not played well since winning the e5 pawn, but bishop e3 is a huge blunder, which will allow me, I think, a lot of comfort in the conversion. Knight g5 is strictly the only move here, because otherwise I win more material. Yeah, he should not have positioned his pieces this way. No, being a Grushik is not an interest, it's a job. And it's not particularly alarming. They have developed into history buffs with like being a history buff is not necessarily a bad thing, but they've also developed like additional things to go with history buffery, if that's even a word, which create problems. Yeah, I should probably tune back into this game, but it's been sort of over for a while, so I've not been fully there. We will eventually get through this night somehow and give mate. I don't know what's the best way to go about that. Maybe do this. I'm imagining the worst now. No, they've yeah, I don't think they would appreciate me describing what they're doing with their lives, which is why I will stop here. I think they have their right to privacy. Thank you, Arno. This is high praise indeed. Okay, I really am not a fan of the Mora. Let's try to get a proper English attack this time. Maybe we'll succeed. Did I say English attack? English attack is something else altogether. This is a Grand Prix. You're welcome, Juan. I think it's beneficial if you actually know some theory in this line, because if you don't, you might do yourself a bit of mischief here. But we'll pretend. Yeah, like starting from here, I think it's extremely beneficial for the player playing the white pieces to have at least some clue what he's doing. Because otherwise you just end up having given up a pawn for, well, not a great deal. Yeah, getting here and starting to think is not the prescribed way of playing the Grand Prix. I do not recommend it to really anyone. Yeah, I've seen that game, Arno, but I'm not sure if that was... Yeah, maybe it was this precise line. Yeah, it was actually, yeah. That's a good spot. I have seen that game and I have seen it annotated. It's a very, very exciting idea, but it didn't come to my mind in time. Also, it's worth noting that what he played there is not... It doesn't refute the line if black knows what he's doing, but That's a reasonably large if in many cases. Yeah, there are some people out there in the chat who appear to be possessed by some kind of a death wish. And by death, I don't mean actual death. I mean, the banhammer is never very far from certain members of the chat community today. Not my banhammer though, because I'm a mild person. I miss bishop takes e3 altogether. It's a good move. I might still be okay though, because I have queen h2. Or not. Yeah, I've completely misplayed this sequence. And very, very well played by my opponent. Like, missing bishop takes e3 is kind of excusable, but not seeing that knight g6 will follow is kind of worse. It will be very, very difficult to make this into a game now. But we'll try. Yeah, h4 vacating the h2 square for the piece is theme of the day. That's a good comment. But if not for knight g6, which admittedly is not a very, very difficult move to find, the whole idea would not have been laughable. Actually. I need to prepare for the opening of files, because I think I will have to sacrifice some more material in the more or less immediate future, and I need more files to do that. Lawrence is out there asking people if they want early presents. In general, I think the answer is obviously yes, but when the present comes from Lawrence, you have to approach it with extreme caution, I think. Show us how chess works. Well played, whoever you are. Yeah, that's a good one. Show us how chess works. Yeah, I like queen e7. I thought I will be in time to sacrifice something on the king side here, but I can't really for the life of me figure out how to make it work. It's extremely annoying. Can we maybe make one more waiting move and pretend that black can't really do anything productive in the meantime? I don't actually believe that. I'm pretty sure black can do many productive things in this position, but my position is so problematic that I'm more or less restricted to trying to do something like this. And hoping that my opponent blinks first. Whoa. Okay. This should normally give me hope, right? Yeah, I missed knight a5. I thought he had to go knight e5. This will not give me any particular hope then. I need to think, but there's no time to think. It's a kind of a quandary. Whoa, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. His structure is now completely impregnable. Yeah, I'm more or less lost now. Yeah, that was very, very well spotted by my opponent. Kudos to him. When I played g5, I assumed he had to go knight e5. I completely missed the fact that the knight can also do the same from the other square. And After that, my position became more or less completely untenable. Although I don't like knight c4. I think this is now giving me, if not renewed hope, then maybe, some hope. Although, no, maybe not rook b7, because now queen b5 just wins. Castles also wins. I mean, this bishop is never coming out. I'll postpone the resignation for a bit, but it would not be completely out of place in this position. Because this, if you just look at this bishop, it's just such a dead piece. I'm a bit confused by f5, but I mean, his position is very, very difficult to spoil. Yeah, okay. Well played by the 1VG. As mentioned, starting to think here is not the prescribed way of playing the Grand Prix, and also I have a feeling that, let's say, if I go queen e1 here, my position might not be completely lost, but missing queen knight g6 is kind of inexcusable. And the conversion from this moment onward by my opponent, I think, is very, very well done. He saw a lot of tactics which I missed more or less altogether. So yeah, very well deserved victory by my opponent. Okay, either one more or two more, depending on how this one goes. Yeah, g3, g4 followed by h5 was a line, Philip Kane. This is what I spent most of my time on, but he just goes away with the knight. I still have to play something like knight h4, and he plays f3. And I'm not really prepared to sacrifice the piece on f3 because he just goes bishop e6 there in the end. Ah, Lawrence, posting links to other resources in chat. Where's Nightbot? Nightbot would have banned him in a second. Or Moobot, any of the good bots. I'm not gonna get involved in, comparing theory notes with somebody who actually plays bishop g5 for a living. I'm kind of ad-libbing here. I'm not sure what I'm doing is even playable, to be honest, but I want to give it a shot. I mean, queen c7 definitely is playable, but I have a feeling I'm supposed to go knight c6 here and not knight d7. I wasn't actually trying to plug a DVD, says Lawrence, after plugging a DVD. That's the way to go about things, Lawrence. If you deny it flatly enough, people will believe whatever you say. I'm mean? I'm not mean. I'm never mean. Knight d5 might be just winning here. I'm kind of grateful it's not knight d5, even though f5 is a very, very sensible move in these types of positions. But I had a feeling that had he gone knight d5 here, I probably would not have survived to see the light of the day. 5 is also very, very decent though. I think I need to stop queen h6. It looks horrible to play h5 here, but I think I actually badly need to stop queen h6. But yeah, something like e5 followed by bishop g6 check in many of these positions is just completely crushing, and also knight d5 might even become stronger now than it was on the previous move. I'm not doing this at all well. The bishop should have been on d7 a long, long time ago. And I really should have preserved the right to castle long. I think it's kind of important to my survival here. Yeah. I can't really not take, but I don't really expect to enjoy taking either. Yeah, this is going to be a massacre. This is gonna be a massacre. I can't for the life of me figure out how to even continue from here. The position is so bad. I think I need to start swapping something down. Oh, that just loses. I can resign now. Queen g6 followed by rook e7 just wins on the spot. Okay, we're playing one more. At least we are providing some entertainment, and I was kind of calling my own loss here. Yeah, rook e7, I resign. Well played by two of my opponents in a row. Yeah, that was up to somewhere around here. It was still okay, I believe. But knight c5 followed by rook b8 followed by bishop b7 is not the way to play this position. Whatever the way to play this position is, it's not what I've done. That was kind of shameful. No disrespect to my opponent who played a very good game, but my performance in that game was not something I will be telling my grandchildren about. Okay, let's try and redeem myself as a Najdorf player. Okay. I played this this young guy in Jib, I believe, in 2016, 17. When was the last time I played Jib? 17, I guess. He's a very interesting player. I'm not sure about bishop e2 though. I think you're supposed to react to knight c6 in some kind of a different fashion. Maybe not. Maybe this is still my game against Aparin, for all I know. But it doesn't feel like it is. Or maybe it is. Yeah, I think maybe it is. That would be somewhat surprising if this was still my game against Aparin. Aparin went g4 here, and I played, I think, h5, which is kind of losing, so I will not be doing the same. Yeah, this is the correct approach. This is what I was worried about when I was playing Aparin. Didn't really like this position very much. I'll try something which probably doesn't work, but I want to give it a shot. Like, generally speaking, you should not be doing these things, but in this particular position, I should be getting some counterplay for as compensation for completely ruining my queenside structure. It's another one of those definitely don't try it at home type ideas, though. I would like not to have to defend the d6 pawn here. Can I afford not to? Like, I would very much like to play bishop g7 here and not have to worry about him taking on d6. It might just lose, but I don't feel like protecting my pawns in this position. It feels like it's not in the spirit of what I'm trying to do here. This probably is the last game, Philip Kane. I could end up playing maybe one more, but I wouldn't bet on it. And just knight d5. Yeah, I don't really like my position here, because it really isn't obvious what I'm trying to achieve, and he has you know, a very stable position. By having this bishop on g4, I kind of prevented him from castling queenside, but with my pieces where they are, I don't think he is very worried about castling kingside either. And the issue is, if I go knight e5, I think he just takes and he is extremely happy, so I'm trying not to do that. But he just goes knight d5 here and asks me to show him my next move, and I'm not quite sure what my next move actually is here. Like, I go with this, but what my next move is once again very unclear. Rook c8, I guess. I managed to sort of stabilize here, but it's very, very difficult to understand what I'm trying to achieve. Like, I'll play b5 if he lets me, but once again, constructive moves are kind of very thin on the ground here. Quite like bishop g3. And I think he's still just snapping on e5 if I do that. Can I play h6 here? Let's try. It's at least something to attempt. Maybe he goes bishop f4. That would be quite something if he just went bishop f4 here, and I wouldn't put it past my opponent to find that. That, I think, would present a very large problem. It's not always easy to make moves like bishop f4 here, because you generally don't like moves that feel like you're admitting you made a mistake, but he didn't make a mistake. It's very, very sensible to provoke h6 and then go bishop f4, threatening that pawn on h6, and if I take on g5, something lands on f6 very possibly. This move I missed altogether, but I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing. I'm less worried about this though. This, I think, was not necessarily all that great for him. Because this kind of a combination of two pawns on the h-file actually do a very good job of protecting my king against all kinds of shenanigans. I think I even have time to go rook e8 here. I considered knight d3, but I don't need to. And I want this rook on g6, not on e6. And here I thought I can take on f6. And I don't lose any material. At least that was my calculation when I was going rook e8. So yeah, it feels like I probably will emerge doing quite well out of all of this, but probably not how it should have gone from a certain moment onwards. I'll play rook g6. I don't think I necessarily need this move, but it makes my setup, yeah, I obviously blundered this move. And I noticed just as I was playing rook g6 that I'm blundering this move, but there was nothing I could have done by this point. Actually, I'm very tempted to keep the queens on, but I can't find a way to do it, because after queen d7 has queen d5. I have bishop f3 check there. No, I don't. Okay, I'll take. I'm actually still ever so slightly better because my king is safer, but objectively this has to be a draw, of course. I think I'm justified in playing on, though. I'm not sure this endgame is a draw. He went for it rather fast, but I'm not sure how comfortable of a draw this is for him. Okay, that was a mistake, but once again, I'm not sure if this is such a comfortable draw for white because of where his king is. I mean, I'm sort of winning by time on time here, but it's irrelevant because I'm not sure it's even probably is a draw. He goes bishop c5, and yeah, I'm not in time to create any pressure because king b3 he's in time to get to the corner. All right, it's 8:07 and I still need to record one more full video, so I'll stop here. It's not the most exciting conclusion if you don't count the two horrible losses that were inflicted on me in the two previous games. This game was interesting, but it ended up being a kind of a technical grind because I blundered knight takes d6. I can just take on f5 here, for instance, both on this move and on the previous move. I can also, I think, play knight c4, which is probably what I should have done. And I should be doing very, very well, but having blundered knight takes d6, of course, I gave my opponent excellent drawing chances, and from here he defended quite well, but didn't have enough time to actually make a draw. That concludes the entertainment for this visit to Hamburg. I will have a bit of a day off tomorrow and fly back on... I'm very, very bad with days of the week. I suppose it will be Friday. No, actually it's Saturday. And hopefully I will... I mean, the situation with the Saudi visas is a bit tricky, but there have been some reasonably positive developments today, so there's more of a chance I will make it to the World Rapid and Blitz than there were yesterday. And on that thought, thanks for watching. This has been Peter Svidler for Chess24.